And it's very false to run on stage and say hello wherever you are, I love you all, because you don't, you've never met them. You can only appreciate that they've come, you can only appreciate that they've bought the records. It can never be more than that, because you can't meet an audience, you can't. I mean, they're there and you're there, so how can you talk to them? You can't have a conversation with 4,000 people.
If Numan sounds slightly paranoid, that's only because he is.
I spend most of my time inside. Went out today, which is unusual.
Cars is the title of the single that rocketed Numan from the safety of obscurity. After 4 albums, Gary Numan sees fame as something merely to be endured.
When I first got famous, I didn't like it. It was like sex, it takes getting used to. You have to learn new values for it, because it's never what you expected. And they said that I was #1, they rang me up. And I went into the room and jumped up and down and then sat down and watched the television, like I'd been doing before. Because nothing could change. There wasn't a big car outside, there wasn't money coming in suitcases to the door. Somebody just rang up and said you was #1 and nothing had changed.
Gary Numan is one proponent of a rapidly emerging syntho-pop movement.
Now, you've been, as far as your imagery is concerned, by some critics, hailed as sort of the Bowie of the 80s. What do you think of that?
Flattering in a way, a bit worrying in another.
Yeah?
I mean, I wouldn't like to be even thought of as another David Bowie. Bowie's a hero of mine. It's not nice to be thought of as the same as heroes, is it?
As far as Gary Numan and Tubeway Army are concerned, my friends Electric, can you just tell me a little bit about the album and that single?
The single is about my not trusting friends at all. The fact that they can stab you in the back, do whatever, is based on my feelings towards that. And I just thought about a friend that was electric, set in another time.
Right.
There wouldn't be that problem. You'd just ring up for a friend and he would arrive. And he would do anything you wanted him to, or it would do anything you wanted it to do. And it would always look the same, so the neighbours could never tell what it was there for,
right.
In case it was smutty. It was about that, really.
Now, the album itself and the type of music that you're putting out is surely electronic, but it's got a difference about it. How have you been able to sort of get that sound that is a definite Tubeway Army sound?
Well, it's using the synthesizer as a rhythm instrument more than an instrument to make little noises with, right. Which is what's been done before mainly. You think of a synthesizer, it makes squiggly noises in the background of records, and it didn't need to be that. And so I made it play the songs. I replaced the guitar with it, right. Eventually, completely. You know, the synthesizer played all the rhythm tracks and all the overdubs as well.
Now, Cars, which is a very interesting single, and could be perhaps your biggest single up to date, or will no doubt be. Just tell us a little bit about this particular track.
I wrote it because it gave me something to write about, for one thing, because I was getting fed up with writing about robots and the future, something that's present. It's about feeling safe in cars, which is the way I feel. If I'm in a car, I feel very safe. I always lock the doors and shut all the windows, unless I'm going fast, which goes alone from the window. I feel safe in cars. I can go from a house and into a car and not feel edgy at all. I feel very edgy if I'm walking anywhere.
And is it hard for you to write songs? I mean, is there any pressure on you having to write songs now that you've got success and having to bring out different albums and that?
The pressure isn't there to come up with product on time, because we're albums ahead of any schedule we would have had anyway.
Right.
Like 3 albums in a year, pushing like 2 years ahead. I find I'm not writing as easy as I was. I think it's probably because I'm becoming more and more looking for better songs, right. And much more, I wouldn't say intricate things, but interesting things. You know, in terms of discords, things like that.
You find then that the 80s, in your opinion, are going to be an exciting time?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. It's making you think more. There's more you've got to do. And the people that can do it themselves are going to come out on top. So the people that can, or have a good command of the visual side of their music, which is what Bowie obviously had, then I think they would take up much more prominent positions. Of the new people, anyway.
And when may we see you in Australia?
Us?
Yeah.
Possibly the end of the 80s. We're hoping to do a world tour. Depends how many territories we break in, really.
Right.
I would hope then.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Numan has said he doesn't want to be a rock star forever. Last Tuesday, he was in town for what he said was going to be his last tour. I had a chance to talk to him before the show.
I want to do video. I need more time to set up the video. And I don't want to be a rock and roll star forever, and this is the best way of beginning to not be one. Yeah, I want to have it all done and finished by the time I'm 30. All this, the pressure side of things, you know, as it is at the moment. I'd like to get married. Fairly soon, and I don't know why. Maybe I lose interest very quickly. Maybe that's why I do it.
So you want to settle down and...
You know, this will be the second world tour I've done, and that's enough, isn't it?
Well, does it get boring?
No, it doesn't get boring. It gets I'm not getting enough out of it to want to make me do it forever. It's rather like driving somewhere. I'm always trying to get a quicker way there.
It's amazing to think that someone as theatrical as you can sort of be so blasé about the whole thing.
No, it's not that. It's not blasé, really. It's if I really loved it, then I'd probably be out there enjoying every second. I wouldn't want to get off the stage at the end of it. I do enjoy it, but not enough. I certainly don't enjoy it as much as some people I spoke to. They live for it. I don't do that. But I don't walk on stage and sort of yawn and think, here we go again. I do get excited by it, but not enough.
Last time we talked, you were talking about a house in the country, I think, that you'd like to have, or that you do have. And the whole thing about loving airplanes. I mean, all that stuff that's the kind of stuff that really you've got to have tons and tons of money to be able to support those kinds of fantasies and those kinds of hobbies.
Girlfriend and house.
Oh, wow, you're halfway there. You got to get some shots of these.
They'd probably be too glossy.
Oh, she's really lovely. What does she think of this rock and roll business? Does she want you to give it up? Is she pressuring?
No, she doesn't care. She didn't even know who I was. She had no idea who I was at all.
Is that, how did you meet her?
She'd heard of me, but she didn't know whether I was a singer or an actor or anything. Which is great. I didn't know people like that were around. I always suspected people's reasons for talking to me. She didn't know who the hell I was. It's great. It's really nice. And then after I was talking to her, we was talking about people wanting you for your money and that sort of thing. And she just split up with a multi-millionaire that she'd been with for 8 years. He's a Rolls Royce dealer from London. And he's incredibly rich. He's got like a ship that he owns. It's massive. And she just split up with him about 6 months ago. And so she can't want my money because I got nothing. She's richer than me.
And you must miss her so much when you're on the road. That's probably why you hate touring so much.
Yeah, I miss her a bit. Yeah. Just before we left, we wasn't getting on too well. We was arguing a lot, so it's a bit of a relief at the moment. I do miss it, yeah. I'd like to be a millionaire, and I'd like to have an enormous yacht in the south of France. I'd like to have a house like that, and a girlfriend like that. And they are, if they're simple, then that's all right. I'm a bit flash, I suppose. The paradox is that I like things like that, and yet I'm very shy. And I don't like people to know that I've got it, really, or at least where it is. And that's hard, because I've got the Corvette, and yet I don't like people staring at me, when I'm out. And so obviously the car attracts attention. So I have to constantly decide whether it's what I want or not. Sometimes I don't want it, sometimes I do.
And the way you look, too. I mean, you look a little flashier, I think, than you did the last time I saw you, even. I think you look terrific. But you've got the streak in your hair, and you know.
Oh.
You look pretty tough. I mean, you definitely look like a rock star. I mean, walking down the street, you stand out. Now, I don't know what, where people in London are at.
This is quite normal, I think, in London. I don't go around in London, so I don't really know.
But you've obviously just got a sense of theatrics about you, I think.
Do you think?
Definitely.
Oh, I thought I've got my jeans on. I was being really incognito today.
But that's the look.
Well, I look at the ground when I walk. I always want my head down.
Do you really think that you've paid your dues? You've had a lot of success in a very short time.
Oh, I didn't pay any dues. I made it on my second album, and I only did clubs for a little while, and I got fed up with it, so I stopped. And the next gig after that, I was #1, and no, I've not paid any dues. You have to pay dues, don't you? That's stupid, that.
What?
Stupid.
People shouldn't have to pay dues? Well, do you feel that you deserve... Well, I guess you do feel like you
should
deserve
tour around
it.
for 5 years before you make it. If it's to gain experience, and that's obviously been proved wrong because I'm doing okay and I've got no experience whatsoever.
So it's all a myth.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, that whole...
Okay, that was Gary with his new single, This Wreckage. Now, we've been promising for the last couple of weeks to show you the film interview from London, and unfortunately, through technical problems, we've been unable to do that, but we have a better surprise. Live in the studio, Mr. Gary Numan. Yeah. Welcome to the show and welcome to Australia. Finally got you on the show.
Yeah, it's close.
Yeah, a lot of problems. Now, the first thing is that when I was in London, you said that you were going to make a flying visit to Australia in a very small plane because you've got a pilot's license. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's in September, October.
Right.
I'm going to take my little aeroplane and fly it around the world for some children's charity in England.
So when did you actually become a pilot?
About 2-3 months ago.
Yeah?
I forget exactly. It was just before Christmas sometime.
And you're going to take this small plane and start heading down through Europe and India?
No, we're going the other way. We're going up over Iceland and that way.
It's going to be very cold.
Yeah, yes.
And you're going to come down through Australia? Yeah? And it's going to sort of be covered by a lot of television and hopefully us as well.
Yeah, when we come over here, you'll come on the plane with us and I forget where we're going to go from here. It's up, I think.
Now listen, getting onto the record side, you're one of those people that have had all the success, not only in England, in America as well, and to some degree, you've seemed to upset the critics over there who sort of love to hate people and love to hate you,
just a bit.
and yet you keep having the hits. I mean, has it worried you with all this criticism?
Not really, no. It was because of the hits.
Yeah.
If I hadn't have had those, then I would have been terrified, yeah. But
why does this animosity sort of flare up towards certain artists with the British press, do you think? They love to hate people or what?
Yeah, I don't know why. Really.
Right.
Well, I don't understand why they write most of the things that they write anyway.
Right.
But
well, I mean, when you first broke through, they loved you, you know. Our friends.
But for about 1 week, yeah, I remember. We had a good week once.
Right.
We got about 3 good articles, and that was the be all and end all of it. Then it was.
Did it worry you about the Bowie thing? I mean, that where people, because the critics started saying, "Oh, Gary's like a David Bowie," you know.
Yeah.
No,
not really, because it was just a matter of time. Because now we go that way and he goes that way, and it's just a matter of time before it was obvious. But I suppose initially you have to expect that, because people see makeup and they think, "Oh, makeup is David Bowie,"
right?
And they can see no more. And as soon as you've been around for a while and you're accepted in your own right, then they see the differences.
Now it's
I very rarely mention David Bowie anymore to these people.
Well, as a performer, you you're an unusual performer. I mean, not only as a singer, but I mean, like, you suddenly sort of decide to go into synthesised music and your records as such. Is there any plan or any formula with Gary Numan, the person and the artist?
There's a lot of thinking goes into it, yeah. Scheming. I think I scheme more.
Right.
Then maybe it's good for me.
And it's your birthday today.
Yeah.
And it's very young to sort of go into a semi-retirement thing.
Well, I'm actually going to be busier now than ever.
Right.
Because now that we're stopping touring, I can do 4 things instead of just the one, which is what I want to do, really. I'd hate to be, in like 10 years' time, to people, if they do remember me, to just be into music. I think that's very one track.
Well, I mean, so far we've had, as I said, Our Friends Electric and Cars and We Are Glass. So we'd like you to continue on the recording side as well.
Yeah, that's still a hobby, so that I probably will. I find it very hard to keep the interest.
Right.
The interest going. So if I write more stories and songs, then there won't be an album. But I'm still interested at the moment. So
it looks as if you're going for flying records now.
Yeah. I'm going to get my commercial license.
Well, listen, we're going to cover it when you come down here. September, you say?
September, October. It depends.
And
on
no
the weather.
concert tours until after all of that.
If ever.
Right, listen, I've just quickly got to ask you about James Freud. You saw James.
Yes.
And were you impressed with him?
Yeah, it was great. It's the best thing in Australia, still.
Well, now that you're down here on a very mini holiday, I want you to go around and see a few groups. I'm sure they'll be knocked out to see you. And one group, I don't know if you've seen or heard of them, In Excess.
I just saw it.
Yeah, they're a fantastic group. No, they're about to come on the show. So go out and have a look at some groups, because, I mean, like, there's some great talent down here.
Yeah, I will.
And thanks for coming, and we'll look forward to seeing you in September.
Thank you.
All right, here is In Excess.
miss England, to be honest, like, a lot. This is the best place I could come to like make up for it. Los Angeles especially. There's aeroplanes, parachuting, gun clubs, any sort of clubs, you could name it. Everything's here, everything you could wish for is here. The reason I got into business in the first place was to be able to do things because of it, because of the money, because of the position you're in. And what it was actually doing was stopping me from doing anything. I couldn't do anything but the music business. And that wasn't what I was in it for.
Were you are you bored with it? I mean, do you still feel bored?
No, I was never bored with it. It was just it got on top of me for a while. Yeah. It's not a business you can get bored in, I don't think. Well, maybe, but not for me, not yet.
What do you think about the American music scene?
It's nearly all British at the moment. You know, Human League, Soft Cell, Duran Duran. They're all here now, all big here. Every time there's a band on the television, chances are it's British. Like Merv Griffin is always having new wave nights. And 3 out of 4 bands on every show is British.
Why do you think that is?
Best around. Always have been. It's surprising how different it is when you actually get down to it. I mean, it seems very, very similar when you arrive here and you're walking around. Everybody speaks the same language. But it is a lot different, especially in the music scene. They got different things to worry about. They find different things to worry about. You know, they really do. I've never seen so many adverts, for example, on illnesses that I never knew existed. And they've got cures for them. They nearly invent illnesses to cure them. And so people run around thinking they're ill all the time. They've got 1,000 problems which really aren't there, I don't think. Or maybe in England you just sort things out privately to yourself, don't you? No, that's the way we are. You don't go running off to people with your troubles so much, but here they do. Everybody knows what everyone else's trouble is.
What do you think about them?
What, Americans?
Yeah.
Oh, I like them, they're all right. Get on well with them.
What do you think the major differences are? I mean, you've stayed here for 6 months. And what are the things you miss? Because they'll probably...
About England, I miss the countryside, really. Every Sunday I used to get the fans coming round to the house. That was quite nice. I used to look forward to that. Have a chat with them. Little things, just little things. Nothing like major, no big change in life has gone on. Just those little things that you miss. You don't even realise are happening when you're there.
Tour, you travel around, you've got your dad managing you, and your mum's often with you, isn't she?
Always.
Always?
On tour, always. Yeah.
Now, what's it like having the family with you?
It's nice, you know, I mean, they're not along for the ride, they all do a job. My mum looks after the clothes. Somebody's got to, you know. My dad's the manager, as you say, keeps that together.
Well, what I did originally, in actual fact, was to try to find him a good manager. And I spoke to all sorts of people and never seemed to come across anybody that I really thought that I felt trust for, you know, to look after him. And it just carried on going along like that until in the end it became, it just seemed sensible that I should carry on doing it myself, and it seems to have worked.
Yeah. I suppose the other thing is, of course, that he can, unlike other managers, he can completely trust you because you're his dad.
Well, I think that's been quite an important part of it, to be honest. You know, it's obviously true, yeah.
And what does your mother make of it all? Because, like, what does she think of girl fans, for example? Especially girl fans in America.
It hasn't bothered any of us. It really hasn't. Yeah. People say that you must change it, but it don't. You just get used to it. No, you accept it ever so quickly. It's surprising. It's probably harder when it's going away, when you're losing money and when you're losing popularity. But when it's coming in, you just sit back and say, yeah, I deserve it.
When Gary's touring, do you stay with him on tour?
Yes, all the time.
And get out the place? Because I noticed while you were in there that you had to get some shoes for the bass player, and having big plates of meat like
It's
that
really
was a bit...
difficult, yes. Yeah, I just couldn't get his size. You know, every shop I was going to, They just didn't have the size that I needed, and I thought it would be easy over here. It wasn't easy at all.
Do you have to keep the reins on? Like, I mean, for instance, because the stage show is a very spectacular one and also a very costly one and costly to take on the road. I mean, does Gary ever say things like, well, we've got to have this, this and this, and you look at it and say, well, no, really, financially, that just doesn't make sense?
He says that all the time, and he's always had his own way up to now. And
He doesn't listen to his old dad.
And all the money he's ever made, he's lost back in it, you know, with his shows. But this particular show, in actual fact, has been reduced a lot. It's the whole production has been cut back to be a little bit more realistic. Yeah.
Do you think it gives you extra sort of security and stability having them with you?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I've never thought about it. It's just that they're going to be there no matter what the reason. But I suppose it does, yeah.
So what do you
I like them being there. I mean, I wouldn't want to do it without them being there.
Wouldn't you?
No, not really. It wouldn't be the same.
Oh, I think that's very nice.
Stippvisite im Münchner Hilton. Wir besuchen Gary Numan, Popmusiker und Kunstpfleger. Er hat gerade seine neue LP herausgebracht, Berserker. Was bedeutet dieser Name?
I got the title from a book called Berserker's Planet. And in the book, Berserkers are the ultimate killing machine. And they just go across to planets and just wiping out people. On the record, it's about a man who's being hunted. And he knows he's being hunted, but he's not quite sure what by, or where it is, or where it is. He can just feel it. And he can feel it in the room when he's there. And everybody else thinks that he's mad.
Ich habe den Titel aus dem Buch Berserker's Planet. Darin gab es diese Killermaschine, die alles niedermacht. Auf der Platte geht es um einen Mann, der gejagt wird. Er weiß zwar nicht von wem, aber er fühlt es. Und jeder hält ihn deswegen für verrückt.
Fühlst du dich manchmal von den Fans gejagt?
Well, you do, but not in the same way. It's a different thing.
Ja, schon, aber das ist etwas anderes.
Bei deinen Auftritten hast du immer verschiedene verrückte Outfits an. Wer entwirft die denn für dich?
Me? That to me is the fun of it. And doing the images, I write the songs, the words, I produce them, I do the covers, the clothes, the stage shows, the light shows. I do all that because it's fun, I really enjoy it.
Ich selbst, das ist eigentlich der größte Spaß daran. Ich mache alles selber, Musik, Texte, Produktion, Kleiderentwürfe, die Plattencover, die Bühnenshows. All das macht mir irre Freude.
Du bist ja ein leidenschaftlicher Pilot und ein toller Kunstflieger obendrein. Was ist das eigentlich für ein Gefühl, einen gefährlichen Looping zu drehen?
Warum ich gefährlich fliege?
Well, it's great. It's you're aware that it's dangerous. I mean, you know it's dangerous, but that's half the thrill of it anyway. It's almost like a fairground ride, where it feels good when you're swirling around, but more so on an airplane because you're doing it yourself. So it's very satisfying. It's very good to know that you can do it. You know, you've got the skill for it. But it is dangerous, and I expect that sooner or later, unless I'm very careful, then something's going to happen. I expect to.
Es ist toll, du bist dir zwar durchaus bewusst, dass es gefährlich ist, aber das ist gerade der Kitzel daran. Es ist fast so wie auf der Achterbahn. Nur ist es im Flugzeug noch aufregender, weil du selber am Hebel sitzt und sehr geschickt sein musst. Aber es ist eben sehr gefährlich und ich weiß, dass ich ziemlich jung sterben werde.
Was gibt dir mehr, Fliegen oder Musik?
I couldn't do one without the other. I have to do them both. I mean, I don't like to relax with anything, because to relax is to waste time, really.
Ich könnte das eine nicht ohne das andere tun. Ich muss beides machen. Beides turnt mich an. Entspannung ist Zeitverschwendung.
Gary Numan, hello, welcome along.
Thank you very much.
Long time no see.
Yes, it is actually, yeah.
So what have you been up to for the past few years?
Years?
Yeah.
Oh, well, this and that. I still do the old music every now and again. I do an awful lot of air display flying. I fly World War II aeroplanes, exhibitions, that kind of thing. Just the same old thing, really, albums and tours. It's my job, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it's your job. Do you want to get out of the music business then and more into sort of your own personal life, flying and...
No, I don't want to get out of it. I just don't want to have it as the only thing that there is, because I think that can be I think it can be damaging to some people. A lot of people, they live it and they sleep it and eat it and breathe it and everything, and it gets the better of you a little bit. You can't get away from it, you know. And I don't like that. So I very rarely watch music programs on television. I don't listen to the radio, things like that, because you just can't get away from it if you do that.
I've got to say this, happy anniversary, because it was 6 years ago today. You know what I'm going to say, don't you?
Yeah.
You retired, played his farewell to life performance at Wembley Arena.
Yes.
Stop by that. what happened?
I got to retire twice more yet, haven't I?
To beat Gary Glitter, like.
Yeah, no, about 6 more times to beat Gary Glitter.
So
no, at the time that really was quite genuine. Actually, I was very, very young, and an awful lot had happened, and I just wanted to get out of it for a while to try and take it all in, you know, see what. It's hard to explain, it really is, but so much happens in such a short space of time. You really do need to get out of it and take like a breath of fresh air in and see what's going on.
Because you really shot to stardom sort of overnight, it seemed.
Yeah, I went
Tubeway
to the Philippines once. I stopped off in the Philippines coming home from somewhere, and there was all these people at the airport, and I had a gold record, and I didn't even know I'd won out in the Philippines. And it just seemed like, it wasn't like this, but it seemed at the time, to sort of obviously a very young mind, that you couldn't go anywhere in the world without getting away from it. And I desperately wanted to just get away from it and just get outside of it a little bit. I wanted it to be a hobby again. And people start talking about units and this and units of that, and you know, mega millions there and points and this sort of business. And it's not a hobby anymore. It's just like big business, and I didn't want that.
You made a few beans at this game, haven't you? I mean, you've got a bit of money, haven't you? Come on, Gary. You've got a bit of money. Got a bit, haven't you?
Yeah. I've got a nice car, yeah.
And you've got a plane.
Yeah, I've got it's an old one though.
So how about this 20? I think you got what 20 odd displays this year.
25.
So what is it you do at a display?
Me in particular, I do two things. There's a low-level aerobatic display. It's a World War II aeroplane for a start, so it's quite old. Low-level aerobatic display which lasts for about 5 minutes. That's probably the most dangerous part of it. Then the other one is a shoot-down scenario, because mine's in Japanese colours. And so I go up and I'm the baddie. See, we do all this fighting, and then I have to get shot down. All the smoke comes out the side of it, and I pretend to.
Oh, you pretend? I hear you do that quite normally, don't you?
I've got a lot of practice at it, for real.
Oh yeah. we're going to have a look at one of your earlier videos. Let's go right the way back to Cars. Remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, you haven't seen this for a long time, have you?
No, not for years.
You like looking at this. Cars. Here's Gary Numan. Gary Numan there, Cars. You really stood on that piano at the end.
Yeah.
That's great.
I'm only little.
You're only little. Listen, Gary, we've got to sort of fill in a few bits here, so we just went off a little natter here. So I've got to find out things like, apparently you're working with Bill Sharp, working on a single, is that right?
In the next month or so, doing another single.
Yeah, so what happens to your studio? You give that a big E?
I've sold it all off, yes. The trouble with studios is technology has advanced very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to try and keep up with it. Like £500,000 just for a desk.
Silly.
Just for a sound desk alone, and I thought this is not on, so I just use somebody else's now.
Is that one of the reasons why you're not churning out so much music now yourself?
Not really, no. I still put out about 3 or 4 singles a year and an album. It's just I just find it very, very hard these days to get people to play it. That's the trouble. And if I can get over that, then
why do you think that is?
I'm not sure. I really don't know. I think I've upset somebody in high places.
What about you?
Molested their daughter or something stupid.
What about, I was going to talk to you about that later. I heard all these rumours about you on tour, but we'll skip that today. We'll just talk about your September tour. You've got some bits coming up, haven't you? Tour?
Yeah, another tour in September, hopefully going into Europe. Although that really will depend on what happens with the next couple of singles over there. But I would like to. That's the same as always, really.
What about the stage show? Because you're very sort of elaborate and extravagant on stage, or you have been. You're going to follow the same sort of ideas?
Yes. It's going to be just as big. Although in the past I've tended to concentrate on having like panels, like Lego bricks of integral lights, and I'm not doing that anymore. This year it's the whole thing moves, and like big rams come up and down, and people coming out and down on the lifts, and God knows what.
So you're going to let us know the tour dates when you know them?
Yes, well, it starts roughly in September, but I haven't got any final dates yet.
All right. Now, how did you team up with Radio Heart? What was all that about?
The man that runs it all, he used to work for me on my company, my record company, and then he went off to start his own thing. And he just came down to see us one day, and he had this tape of the song that one of these bands had done, and I sort of cheekily said, "Do you mind if I stick my voice on it?"
And that was it?
And that was it, really, yeah. A little bit like the Sharp Newman thing. I just sort of fell on my feet.
Yeah.
I just stumbled across it.
You've never seen the video, have you, either?
No, I haven't. No.
And they made you go out and buy the single. I thought it was a bit naughty. If the record company are watching, it's well out of order. Gary, let me say thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
It's nice to see you. You're going to keep popping back throughout the year. We want to see more of him, don't we? There he is then with Radio Heart.
Own display team. They dropped into Southampton Airport for a practice Graham Bowd was there.
Gary Numan, figurehead of new wave music in the 70s, now a rock millionaire, still touring and still making records. Unlike many of his peers, Numan has lasted the course, and that has surprised some of his critics, not so much because of his music, but because of what he does in his spare time. Numan's flying exploits hit the headlines 5 years ago when his plane crashed in a field near Southampton. The national press seized its chance to shoot down another rich young pop star, portraying him as a kamikaze pilot with more money than sense. In fact, the crash was caused by a mechanical fault, and Gary was flying as a passenger. Reputations die hard, but in the close-knit flying world, no one ever doubted Numan's ability as a pilot. Now he's flying for one of the country's top airshow teams in a vintage American Harvard. Wherever they go, his fans turn out to see him, and that painful crash is now a thing of the past.
What they actually said was so wrong, and I've had to live with the jokes and everything about it ever since, no matter what else I've achieved with it. That did annoy me very much. I was just sitting in it, and it stopped, and we landed in the field. The next thing I know, I was flying it, and we've landed on the motorway, and I've never been able to live it down.
Have you found it difficult to get other pilots to take you seriously? I mean, most people who fly aeroplanes don't come from rock groups.
No, I'm the only one in the world that does display flying, ever. I don't know. I was aware when I first got into it, display flying, that there was a certain amount of, not resentment, nothing like that everyone was very friendly, but a tremendous amount of caution, which is understandable considering what they'd read about me beforehand and the background that I come from, because I'm supposed to be drunk and drug crazed and all sorts of other things that we're supposed to be. And so I can understand it, but they were helpful and good to me, although they were a little bit cautious to start with.
How do you manage to get the time to do this? Your working schedules are quite exacting at the moment.
Yes. Yeah, I did a single yesterday and another one tomorrow. It is a little difficult, especially this year, because I'm touring this year and there's about 3 or 4 displays on when a tour is on, so I've had to try and make the gigs near to where the air shows are so I can get to them in time, and I've had to ask to be like one of the first on at the display so I can land and get to the gig to go on and do this show.
Ewan is then departing.
Before their practice, the team gets a careful briefing from leader Anthony Hutton. How do they feel about having a rock star in their midst?
Well, Gary's been flying for many years. He's a very respected air display pilot now, and quite frankly, we're lucky to have him. He's got a great expertise in aerobatics, a tremendous enthusiasm for the aeroplane itself, and he's a great team member.
Then it was time to take to the skies over Hampshire. For Gary Numan, pop star pilot, it's chocks away. Whatever his fortunes in the fickle music business, he says his flying days are definitely here to stay.
Yeah, well, I couldn't be singing when I was 50, could I? Really, it's sort of not on. But there's no reason I couldn't be flying until I was 60 or 65. So I would say yes. It's difficult to put it over properly because I don't love the flying more than the music, but I would hate to give up either one, and I wouldn't want to give up the flying for the music and vice versa, really. But I do think, sort of being realistic about it, that the flying has to last longer than music because there aren't any 60-year-old pop stars in the world. I hope there ever will be, actually. It's not a very nice thought.
I could stand it for days, or I could stand it for hours. I could stand it for a lifetime, watching you waiting always. I could observe you all